Hello and welcome back to the page. I am your host, Ashriel Moore, the ambassador of the African Diaspora Collective right here in Israel. Let's have a look at this video first of all, and then we'll come back for a bit of conversation.
If you're black, can you stay for a second? So I want to share an experience with you, help you understand how black people get treated in another country that, blacks deemed so terrible. Like openly racist. Like America here, people are racist, but not openly. So I lived in the Middle East in Jordan, Amman. Mind you, I'm Muslim. I speak Arabic. I am just a brown girl. I'm from Sudan. Where I'm from, people speak Arabic. When I lived in the Middle East, I will tell you guys, I experienced everything involving racism. It was from Middle Easterns. Even if you were from the Middle East yourself, if you were darker complexion, you're automatically deemed as just peasant. You are looked down on. I am telling you this. And these people never take accountability. Especially now that they live in the U.S. All corner stores and all these things, majority of them are, Arab men. Black people love them. They praise them for, being the person in the corner. But y'all don't understand, if you are in their country, the way you will be treated, you are going to hate it.
Okay, so first of all, the reason why I continue to bring these videos is because it's very important to give people a real live view of the reality on this side of the world from people's first-hand accounts, right? Their own experiences. Because all too often, the only thing that we actually hear about this region is based on what the media is showing, what we may see on social media. But for the most part, you don't really understand the complexities of the society on this side of the world, because as far as people are concerned, there's a very binary viewpoint. Israel, Arabs, Palestinians, and that's just kind of, the end of it. Most people don't really delve deeper into the realities of the various groups who are making up this area that people call the Middle East, which is actually northeastern Africa in actuality. But most people don't delve deeper into, the undercurrents. So you don't really get a proper understanding of these realities. And so when you bring people like this sister here, who is sharing a first-hand account of her experience. Now, not to say that this is everybody's experience, but it does represent a broader experience for people of African ancestry on this side of the world. Now, when you're looking from the West, right, from the Western world, people in the West, really, people of African ancestry, do experience racism, discrimination, oppression, degradation, and all these things. But for the majority of the time, it's at the hands of Europeans. And so most people have kind of fixed their minds, right? Their minds have been conditioned to see things of this nature in a very binary perspective, with a very, very binary perspective, when they're only looking at it from, okay, white people and black people, right? And everybody who is considered white, usually not even white, but they are white passing as well, right? If they're not in the category with black people, then they could be able to then be accepted into the other side, right? Like, for example, how Arabs are being treated in America. They're not necessarily considered black people. They're considered colored, or some people are even passing for white. And so now they have the ability to be able to take advantage of them not being in the position of the lower class, right? Like the people of African ancestry. They could be able to fit into a different category, but also receive a lot of the perks that people on the higher scale receive, but not be in the most oppressive state like the people of African ancestry. So it's very, very different. And when you look in from there to this end and you're applying those lenses to here, then it also makes things seem very binary, right? Black, white, oppressed, oppressor. But it's not like that at all. And here's the real truth about it, so that people can be able to have a better understanding of these things. When you're looking at what's taking place on this side of the world, right? The majority of the time you're only looking at the news and you're only hearing about the Israeli and the Palestinian conflict. That's the only thing that you're actually hearing about. The majority, right? Every now and then you may hear about some Arab states and some oil and some, some new adventures and some things that they're trying to push. And you may hear about Cristiano Ronaldo joining a club in Saudi Arabia and other people, coming. But you don't really hear about the complexities of the reality of people of African ancestry on this side of the world. And so that's why I try and use this page to be able to help people to be able to view these things through the lens of a person of African ancestry who is actually experiencing these things on this side of the world, and to be able to help to peel back a few of these layers from it so that you can be able to have a proper look into the inside of the realities. So I speak about the realities within Israel for the communities of African ancestry. I speak about the experiences that we have here, the good, the bad, the in-between. But that's not the only, we don't only have people of African ancestry residing in Israel. We have people of African ancestry residing in the entire region. And as you heard from the sister, she was experiencing racism and discrimination and otherwise right there in Jordan, just on the other side of the border, right here with Israel. And though her experience is not a unique or an isolated experience. There's an experience that people of African ancestry experience often and regular. Is it everybody? It's never everybody. It's never every single person. But there are policies. There is a general attitude. It may not even be coming from every individual person in those countries. But we don't ever look at every individual person to be able to try and understand a general way of operation, a general attitude towards. We don't ever look at every individual person. So surely we're not going to do that either in this instance. But it is something that's quite common. Unfortunately, it's very, very much common. And so I want to help people to, first of all, understand the micro within Israel and the Palestinian people and Arabs, and then the macro, right? The entire region, and what is the relationship between people who are considered Arabs with people of African ancestry, so that you can be able to see this not binary at all. When looking from the outside in, most times Arab peoples will try and convince people of African ancestry, and it's not anything that just happened now. This is something that goes back centuries, right? We'll try and convince people of African ancestry that we have some things in common. And we should work together for the common goals, for the common causes that we have. But in actuality, it's not about the common causes and the common goals. It's about taking advantage of the fact that we, people of African ancestry, have had a lot of despicable experiences, and we still experiencing them today. So we have a soft spot for people who we consider experiencing even a small portion of what we may have experienced. Racism, discrimination, oppression, degradation, mass killing, anything that remotely even remind us of the trauma that we, throughout the generations, have experienced at the hands of Europeans, we would automatically side with people who we consider to be the victims of some of the same things that we've experienced, without really understanding the realities underneath. Why do I say that? Because when people are looking at Israel, for example, they say, okay, well, we're looking at Israelis and Palestinians, and we say this very clear. Palestinians are people who are indigenous to the area, who've been here for thousands of years, who resided on this land called historic Palestine by some people. Israelis are all invaders, settler colonialists who've been oppressing Palestinians, and they have no place in this area. They are from Europe. But when you look at it, when you peel back a few of those layers, you pull them back from the side of Israel, first of all, you understand that the society of Israel is actually 10 million people, wherein 20% of the people who are considered Israelis, who would be considered Israel, because obviously they're holders of Israeli passports, they live in the Israeli society, they participate in the social structure and order of Israel in all of its ways. They're Arab people. Right? They would be considered Arab people. So that's 20% of the Israeli society. But then you have also 75% of the Israeli society, where within that 75% who are Jews, you have 60+% who are non-Europeans, right? You have those who are what we will call the Easterners or the Mizrahim, right? They come from the North African countries and from the Arabian countries. Then you have those who are Sephardim, where it said that their ancestors fled the Inquisition in 1492 and then settled in other places and then made Aliyah to Israel once the state of Israel was established. And even some had made Aliyah beforehand. And you've had throughout the generations since the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 AD, you've had some of those Israelites who had resided in Judea remain here in Israel all throughout. And so obviously, during the periods of time when you have foreign control of this region by the Mamluks, by the Ottomans, by the Arabs, by the Crusaders, by the Romans, then some of those people also intermixed with some of these groups. And then you would be able to see, obviously, they don't look like usual people in this region. The indigenous people of this region would actually look, because they cohabited with some of these other people. But then also, in addition to that, you had a lot of people who were coming from the outside in, who were not either indigenous to this area. So it's a mixture of a whole lot of people. And also you had those people who were initially Israelites, following the Israelite traditions and the customs of the Israelites, of the Judeans, of Jews here in this region. But then they converted to Islam forcibly. They converted to Christianity forcibly. And so today they wouldn't really be able to, they couldn't tell you about their ancestry. They just know what they actually are today, or what they were, let's just say, a few generations ago. But they don't go much deeper than that. But then in addition to these groups, you also have asylum seekers from Sudan and from Eritrea. You also have Jews who had come from you call Bnei Menashe, or Bnei Israel, that came from India. You have those who migrated from the African Hebrew Israelite community that had come from America. You have African American Jews who are here. You have Igbos. You have the asylum seekers, as I said, from Sudan and from Eritrea. You have all of these peoples that are, so this is the bulk of the Israeli, we're talking about what? At least 80+% of the people who are residing here are not people of European descent, are not Ashkenazim. And so in that case, then, that would change the entire trajectory of where people are trying to actually take this conversation. Because then it doesn't really fit into the binary lens of settler colonial powers or people from Europe and indigenous peoples from this land. Why? Because even on the side of the people who you would consider Palestinians, according to all the census and reports and historical data and information, and even from the words of people who would be considered Palestinian, like the Hamas spokesperson or the Hamas Minister of Interior, who was speaking about the fact that Palestinians are actually a makeup of people from the surrounding Arab lands that had migrated to Israel during different periods of time. You had those who had migrated during the Mamluks period. You had those who had migrated during the Ottomans period. You have those who had migrated during the British Mandate. And they were coming and they were looking for jobs and they were looking for better opportunities. And because things were beginning to develop better here in this region, then they just came and settled here. So you had hundreds of thousands of people who were coming from Egypt and from Lebanon and from Syria and from Saudi Arabia and from Jordan. You also had Muslim Europeans who were coming from other places to this land to be able to take advantage of these opportunities. So when you're looking at this group of people, these people are not a monolithic group either. And they definitely are not a people that trace their roots all the way back to what they call the Philistines. They said they have a direct connection all the way back going to the Philistines. The Philistines were a Grecian Sea people. These people are Arabian people, intermixed obviously with a lot of the Europeans who would come in, some with, you know, with people of African ancestry like Sudanese and others who would also come in. So, you know, this is, it's not black and white like people try and make it seem. But also on the Palestinian side, just like on the Israeli side, when you have people of African ancestry like the Ethiopians, like the African Hebrew Israelites, like the asylum seekers who are experiencing racism and discrimination at the hands of the Israeli government, and then you also have, on the flip side of it, you have groups like the Afro-Palestinians who are experiencing some of the exact same things, and sometimes even worse, at the hands of the Palestinian Authority and Hamas and others. And I had a video with a sister of mine, Amal, who was speaking about their experiences on that side where they don't even receive, they have whole villages of hundreds of thousands of people who don't receive basic amenities like electricity, like running water, like educational system from the Palestinian Authority in the area of the West Bank. And so they have to provide them things for themselves. They don't receive a lot of help, a lot of assistance from the Palestinian Authority. They're not even really seen as part and parcel of the Palestinian experience, right? They have the identity of Palestinians because that was just the name of the region prior to the establishment of the State of Israel. So everybody who was here, people of African ancestry, Jews, Arabs, everybody was just considered Palestinian because they held a Palestinian passport, because that was just the name of the region when it was under the mandate of the British. So it was the British Mandate of Palestine. So everybody who were here were considered that, but they're not really received as such in the Palestinian society. They're rejects, right? And so you wouldn't be able to understand that from the outside. So when you have people like this sister who's given an account about her experience, and she's telling you that this is what she was experiencing, and you have other people who was also saying some of the same things about their experiences here in this region, you would believe that it's something that's totally different than what these people actually are sharing. Why? Because when you hear about the area, the region, everything that's taking place, you're hearing it from the mouths of the Arabs who are coming to appeal to people of African ancestry wherever they are in the world, in America and on the African continent, South America and others, to say that we have something in common. We're fighting a common enemy. We're commonly oppressed. And so we should be linking together to fight our common enemy, our common oppressor. When at the same time, they are actually committing that same oppression on people of African ancestry in their societies. But they wouldn't ever speak about that. And if you don't go deeper, then you wouldn't even know about that, because these people really don't speak about it, you know, because of what they can experience if they talk too much about the things that they actually, these are not democratic societies where you can be able to just share your opinion or share your experience and just say what things are and still live within that society. That doesn't work like that. If you still live there, then you need to apply some wisdom and not really talk too much about the things that you're experiencing when you know they can come to your doorstep at any time, and it won't end good for you or for your family. So the best bet is that you not say too much. And so people in these areas, if they're part of the societies, they don't say too much. Now, the foreigners who are coming in to work and all of those, and they're experiencing the kafala system and the enslavement and all of those things, they don't really say too much about that until they have left. Or sometimes they have a little bit of coverage and they will speak their minds and, you know, share their experiences. And but the majority of the people who are actually trying to be a part of the society don't really share too much about their experiences, you know, for intelligent reasons. But at the same time, when we're talking about these experiences, people in the West don't really get a good look into the experiences of people of African ancestry on this end. So they paint this different cover for you all, and you all really fall into it because, I mean, that's just natural. You see or you believe that somebody is experiencing what you have experienced, and so naturally you're going to come to their aid. You're going to stand beside them. You're going to stand in solidarity with what you see to be wrong in that society because you have experienced it in your own society. Or wherever we are in the world, we experience these things. But we have to start hearing the voices from within. that are actually sharing about the experiences that are undercurrent that people are not really sharing, putting in your face, because then they're going to lose support of people of African ancestry. So why would they ever talk about those things? Why would they talk about all of these radical Islamic organizations that are destabilizing the continent all over? See, on that end is Europeans that are carrying those things out. On this end, you have majority Arabs. So you have the European imperialists and colonizers, and you have the Arab imperialists and colonizers. The Europeans came in, conquered Africa, America, South America, portions of Europe, all of those things. But on this side of the world, the Arabs came in and conquered all of West Asia, portions of India that had become then Bangladesh and otherwise afterwards. But they're still holding on to a lot of those foreign cultural tenets, the language, the societal makeup that was forced on them by the Arabians who had come to that area. Indonesia, for example, all of the Western Asian countries like Syria and Lebanon and Iraq, all these places, they have indigenous peoples to them. They're not part of the Arab world as we have come to accept today. All of the North African countries, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Egypt, these are not part of the Arab world as far as their makeup. They are now because they're conquered, they're colonized. The imperialists from the Arabian Peninsula came in and did their big one right here. Sudanese, they still identify as Arabs, some of them today. Northern Nigeria, the Sahel. So, but if you look at it from a very narrow perspective, based on the information that is being provided by the people who need our help, who need our assistance, who want us to be involved in helping them to overcome who they see as their enemies, so that they could be in a position of power, not to be able to share that power, not to help with the black liberation struggle wherever it is in the world, but for them to be able to maintain their position of power wherever they are in the world. So it has nothing to do with us. It's all about what it is that they want. And they have no problem at all with, doing it in such a way where it'll be to our detriment. Because if it was about black liberation and African liberation and all, then why are they still holding on to all of these North African countries? Why are they still in Sudan? Why are they still in Northern Nigeria? Why are they coming into the Sahel? Why are they all throughout Chad? And still implementing, this neo-colonial idea that, okay, we don't necessarily have to only be there anymore, although we brought a significant amount of our people into these places to be able to settle them, right? But now it's not about us physically needing to be there. We can just continue to control all of the aspects of society, control the economy, control the military. We could have, some of these insurrectionist groups inside that they can be able to continue to cause mayhem. We can continue to determine, based on who we see fit, who's probably going to be leaders, just like the Europeans do. The Europeans are also looking at the Arab states and saying, okay, well, we need certain leaders to be in position because they represent our interests better than some of these other people, and so we need to topple them. But it also happens, same thing in Arab countries, where Arab peoples or some of these Arab leaders, right? For example, Iran, right? They saw that Hezbollah was a group that could be able to represent their interests better inside of Lebanon, and so they strengthened this group inside of Lebanon so they can be able to have a military that's almost as strong as, if not stronger than, the Lebanese military. They have a budget that is higher than the budget of the Lebanese country, of the Lebanese state, and there's no way that you can be able to get around this group. And they also became stronger because they also took a big chunk from the government as well. So now they are actually part of the government in Lebanon, but they are being moved around by Iran. Same thing with the Houthis down in Yemen. Same thing with Hamas in Gaza, right? Effectively, they were supposed to establish a state once they were voted in 2006. But then they were being directed from Iran to do otherwise, to do other things to keep destabilization. But people are not really looking at it from a wider lens. They're looking at it from a very narrow lens, and so I can understand why you wouldn't be able to understand the complexities of the societies in this area, because they're a bit different from the societies in the Western Hemisphere, right? Over here, we have our own group of people who are really sort of kind of running the show, but it's in direct opposition to the interests of people of African ancestry in this region, wherever they are. And people of African ancestry are in this region big time, heavily. And we're not in Arab countries. These people have come to our lands, conquered our lands, toppled our peoples, forced their cultures, their traditions, their languages on people of African ancestry and other indigenous people in this area. And now the people just accept it. I mean, yeah, this is part of the Arab world. So I want to continue to help you to understand these things from a different perspective, based on inside views of people who experience these things on this side of the world. So thank you so much for continuing to follow. Please leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe, and leave a comment down low if you have something to share in this regard. Until then, you have a great day.